Okay, if I were in a competitive exam, I'm looking at 4 and 5 now. I think I'd probably go for 5 before 4. But anyway, I'm going to go in order. I'll do 4, go to the whiteboard. I do want to read it to you, but again, as I go to the whiteboard, I got to keep reading it over and over again. So it's a sequence of numbers, x1 up to x100, has a property that for every integer k between 1 and 100, the number xk, this is tough to understand by the way, is k less than the sum of the other 99 numbers. Given that x50 is equal to m over n, where m and n are relatively prime, positive integers, find m plus n. This looks like it's going to be tough. One is understand what you read. So I want to point out, looking at it, and I'll write this down for you. I'm given some conditions over here, and I'm given this x1 through x100. So I'll write this one down, x1, x2, x3, x4, yada, 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 up to x100. All right, so I'm given these numbers. Now, again, I'll read it again. It says a sequence of numbers has a property that for every integer k between 1 and 100. Well, you know, I'm starting to realize that the integer k now has something to do with the index, right? So k can be any integer between, it could be 1, could be 2, could be 3, all the way up to 100. So it seems like they're talking about the index now. So it says that xk, well, let's write this down now, xk. Well, I'm going to pick a particular k, and the k I'm going to pick is just 1. I got to go back and read it. It says the number xk is k less. Well, if I picked 1 and it's k less, I'm going to put down minus 1 over here. It's less than something. What is it less than? Less than the sum of the other 99. Well, I can write that down. So it's going to be x2 plus x3 plus yada, 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 up to x99. I'm going to write this a little differently. I'm going to write x1 plus 1 is equal x2 plus x3 plus x4 plus yada, 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 up to x99. All right, I'm trying to understand it. Now, if I did the next one, I did x2. Let me write this over here, x2. What would that be? Well, that would be x1 plus x3 plus x4. You notice I skipped the x2, by the way. Yada, 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 up to x100 minus 2. So I can write this down. x2 plus 2 would be equal to, well, it's going to be x1 plus x, we skipped 2, right? 3 plus x4 plus yada, 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 up to x100. All right? This looks pretty complicated, but I'm starting to say that I could keep doing this. I mean, I got a general pattern to it. So I could say x3 plus 3. That would be x1 plus x2. Skip x3. You get x4 plus x5 plus yada, 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 up to x100. And I could keep doing this. And what I mean by that, I understand what happens each time, that there's sort of like a missing term from it. All right? So this is going to be x100. Now let's go to x99. Plus 99. You would get x1 plus x2 plus yada, 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 up to x98. You'd skip 99, you get x100. Now if I did x100 plus 100 equals x1 plus x2 plus yada, 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 up to x99, by the way. All right? So I'm kind of looking at that, and I got a general pattern. I'll write the general pattern down for you. The general pattern is going to be xk plus k is going to be equal to, well, again, it depends what k is, but I'm just going to put in general x1 plus x2 plus yada, 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 up to x would be, I don't want to put k in there, so it's going to be k minus 1. I don't put k there, so it's going to be xk plus 1 plus yada, 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 up to x100. Yeah, general. all right? I'm not gonna say, you know, that completely understood at that point, but that's a general statement, by the way, all right? So then I'm gonna look at this over here, and I'm gonna install the missing term. So you would have 2xk plus k would be x1 plus x2, and if I put the missing term in there, it's just gonna go up to x100 if I put that in there. All right, so that's an interesting thing to know, by the way, all right? So what I'm gonna do over here is kind of write that down. So 2xk plus k is just the sum of those terms, starting at 1 and going up to 100. It's a general statement, by the way. All right. I guess I could keep writing this thing down, right? So let's take a look at it. Let's think about it. We have a general form, and we could start k equals 1 and then get k equals to 100. That's a lot of things to write down, isn't it? All right. So let's do that. Let's see if we can look at each of these things and do each one separately. Let me tell you what I mean by that. You could write down 2x1 plus 1 is equal to this. All right? And you can put the next one down. 2x2 plus 2 equals this. You could write the next one down. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's erase that thing. It's really not that bad to write down, by the way. And then I start to realize that if I kept writing it down and I added them all together, you know, I'd eventually get to the last one, would be 2x to 100 plus 100 equals k equals 1 to 100 xk. At this point, you may be afraid what the question is. I'm just trying to figure out what this sum looks like. And what do you get over here? I'm going to write this down. You would get 2. I'm adding them all together, by the way. I'm going to add them all together. Sum. I want to point out what I'm adding together now. I'm adding these things together, every single one. And it's really the sum. That's all it is. It's the sum. K equals 1 to 100 xk. Well, that's not so bad. I can do that. And then the next thing I can add together is these things over here. And let me point out what I mean by that. I'm going to add this, 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 all the way up to that. And that's a sum of the integers from 1 to 100. And I know what that is. That's just going to be, you know, the sum of the integers, 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to 100 is going to be 100, 101 over 2. Simple sum formula you should know from math, pre-calculus. And then if I add all these together, it's 100 of those things. There's 100 of them, and they're crazy looking things, right? Well, I have an equation now that I can probably figure out. And I want to put out what I mean by that. I got 100 times 101 over 2. I am now going to take this term, which is 2 of those things, and take it from this thing, which would be 98 of those things. So I'd get equal 98, the sum, k equals 1 to 100 xk. All right? I think I can figure the sum out now. And what's the sum going to be? K equals 1 to 100 xk, and then you can get 100, 101, and then 2 times 98. Right. I want to go back and read the question, though. And I don't know if I even got close to an answer at this point, but I got a pretty good idea what this is. I got a pretty good idea. All right, so I want to go back and I have to read it and tell me what the question is. I get, you know, sequence of numbers. I did that property. I did the property, by the way. And we kind of figured it out, but I don't even know what the question is. The question is, given that x50 is m over n, I'll write this down for you, x50, they say it's m over m, and they're relatively prime, and it's reduced. All right. So I'm going to try to figure this out now. And they say this over here, but they want to do is find out what m plus n is. Well, I want to figure out what x50 is. So I want to go back over here, and I got a sort of a form for it. Like I could write that down, by the way. We had a general statement for it, right? And I want to point out, these are the general statements we had. So write this over here. So 2x50 plus 50 would be equal to the sum. Do I know what the sum is? I do. The sum is this 101 over 2 times 98. So I'm getting close to getting x50. And again, it's always a problem for me to do the arithmetic, but I'm going to do it. All right, so you get 2x50 plus 50. I'm going to reduce this side. This is going to be 50. And I realize for some students struggling, they're wondering, can I just use a calculator? Yeah, you can just use a calculator if you want. But I want to continue to reduce, by the way, because this to me is an arithmetic problem at this stage. And I'm going to divide by 2 again. That's 25. And 101. Boy, this is nasty, isn't it? And 2 into 98 is 49. And let me take a look at that. And no, that's about all I can do there. I'm going to take 50 from both sides. Well, it's getting nastier and nastier, isn't it? Let's put this down. Maybe do it over here, x50. 25 times 101. I'm not going to do that yet, by the way. You may wonder why. I'm looking for something easy to do. And that's a 2 there. I'm going to factor out 25. And you get 101 over 49 minus 2. Well, I want to write in terms of 49, so it'll be 98. All right, again, 25 from 50 is 2, and 98 over 49 is going to be it's going to be the 2. All right, so let's see if we can do that. 2x50, 25, count that 49. Kind of nightmare, isn't it? 101 minus 98. That's going to be 3, right? So what do you get over here? x50. Let's see, 75 over 98. 75 over 98. At least I found out what x50 is. So x50 is 79 over 98. And that can't be reduced, by the way. I'll go through that with you. This is really 3 times 25. If you look at 98, it's going to be 2 times 49. And 49 is 7 times 7. So there's no reducing factor, so they're relatively prime. Let me get my eraser out. Now someone says, I don't even remember what the question is. The question is that x50 could be written as a ratio m over n. And that's what they said. But what was their question? Their question is, what's m plus n? Well, I can write that down now. 75 plus 98, and that's going to be 173. And we're done. Thank you.